this session of the Med Dialogue here in Rome. It's about Lebanon, obviously a hot topic issue, and we have two different perspectives on the situation in that country. We will get the perspective from Fouad Makhzoumi, who is a well-known businessman. He's also a member of parliament, chair of the National Dialogue Party, and the founder of the Makhzoumi Foundation. And we'll also hear from Jan Kubis, who is the United Nations Special Coordinator for Lebanon.
I guess last time we were here, we discussed about Lebanon, that we are moving towards exactly where we are today. We are in the eye of the storm. Whether we like it or not, we are in the center of it. And the problem that we have today is that everybody thought that this is not going to come. We're spending money as if there is no tomorrow. We're trying with no controls. All of a sudden, Lebanon changed from being a country with confessional groups to become a club of few leaders of the confessional groups, whereby they were looking all the time for an outside protector. And 17 October was a turning point, because when the people started saying enough is enough, everybody, all the political system in Lebanon, they thought it's another one of these euphoria. It will go in 1 or 2 days, and everybody is saying that. Where we give credit to our people that are on the streets is that it's been close to 50 days. They did not relent. They're still there. They're trying to make the best one that they can do, because at the end of the day, they're saying, we cannot take it anymore. Enough is enough. Look, when we see a father, a few days ago, that was 2 days ago, that he committed suicide, fleeting, because he did not have money to buy a sandwich for his daughter. When a few months ago, we have somebody from the family Zurek that burned himself because he couldn't send his daughter to school. How can we justify that we are in a country that actually respects its citizens? No, we don't. And where we are today, we look at the setup that we have. We have a government with officially $84 billion in debt, a population of 5 million people. We have income per capita based on the national statistics of $13,000. But if I take the top 6 or 8 billionaires that are in Lebanon, we end up with about half of our population basically in their poverty. In the north of Lebanon, we have 30% of our people, they only live with $4 a day. And we have 300,000 people, they live under $2.50 a day. And if we are going to go into a process of trying to devaluate the pound, half of our people are going to be under the line of poverty. Add to it all of this, then you have we don't have any facilities, no electricity, garbage in the streets, no water and all of this. And when these people went down to the streets and they're saying, what do we have to lose? They are speaking what every Lebanese is talking. They feel humiliated. They feel that their rights have been taken away from them. They believe that they have been robbed from their future. Our children are thinking very seriously of leaving the country. 1% in 2018 left the country and did not come back. When you look at all of this, what do they have to lose? They have nothing to lose. The one thing the politicians in Lebanon, they never calculated is that they were not able to pull the people of the revolution back into the sectarian language. It's the first time that we see a unifying cause, which is called, we are against corruption, we want our money back, and we had enough with all of this, and that's why we will not accept a government to come back, to become a photocopy, a mirror image of what we had before. The bottom line is that everybody thinks that there was a coalition between the Maronites and the Shiites, to form this partnership. What we see today is definitely Hezbollah is going out of his way to say, I want Hariri or the nominee of Hariri. If that's the case, do we see a realignment in Lebanon between the Sunni and Shiite against the Christians, or are we going back to the same process? But when people are saying enough is enough, no, they're not going to be saying enough is enough if you bring me somebody who's part of the corruption process, and we want him now in order to protect everybody that was in corruption. That's why we will bring him as a prime minister or in a cabinet that is not going to open the files of the past. This will not be accepted. When I look at all of this and I see the men and women in the streets in Lebanon, when I see the young, the youth, everybody is there, mothers, sisters, everybody is there saying, this is unacceptable. For me, I say that there is hope. Because these people have nothing to lose. And this is the worst thing that happened to this political regime that we have. When people are saying we have nothing to lose and we want the change, and the change will happen. And all what I have to give from here, I will salute them, because we're sitting here when they're sitting still on the streets in Lebanon, and they're saying we will not accept to have a nominated prime minister be brought to us against the constitution, against everything what we fought for 15 years of civil war. I believe I would like to salute the people of the revolution from here, and I would say the change is coming, and I think we still have to have some hope.
Well, first of all, after this statement, you can understand why Mr. Makhzoumi is so popular politician, not only in Lebanon, but also in the whole region, why he is indeed getting a lot of traction. And as the second point, I would like to say that in many cases, I agree with you. In many cases, this is very similar to how I see the situation in Lebanon. Maybe not in all the elements that you raised. One point that I would like to say, I believe that people of the country are somehow more mature than many of the leaders of the country. People of the country simply came to understand and are telling us to the leaders that this is the time for change. There were many efforts before. There were many efforts from different angles. There were many hopes with the elections. It finally, as we have now, all the elements of power there, you know, we have the president, we have the parliament, we have the, okay, now we don't have the prime minister, but almost the whole year you have the whole complete set of the leaders. This is also very unique. So there were hopes. But unfortunately, the people recognize that the hopes doesn't mean that all these requests that have been on the table for decades, and complaints and grievances, that they will materialize in changing the way how governments are managing the situation. So finally, what happened on the 17th. People started to protest, and they showed, as I said, a massive maturity. That's correct. Let's see. They protest across the sectarian lines. There are no sectarian slogans at all. All of them are there, from all parts of the country, from all sorts of political parties and forces and movements. They are still members of these parties and movements. And they go there, and they speak and work with each other. They mix with each other. And they come with ideas that are, frankly, without any massive organization, very similar, with demands that are very similar. Go to Tripoli, go to Nabatea, go to Tyre, go to Beirut, go to Bekaa, and you hear what the people are asking, and basically this is the set of very similar demands. Some of them very far-reaching, some of them may be a little bit idealistic, but why not? This is the time. This is the time of the opportunity. That's my second message. This is the time of change. This is the time of the opportunity. But there is a set of demands that is absolutely rational, and many of them, they can be implemented immediately. Absolutely. Unfortunately, many of the leaders of the country, they are still focusing on just discrete areas of efforts. The leaders, they are engaged in political negotiations. Do they manage the economic and social crisis? Do they manage the financial crisis? No, I'm sorry. They don't. What is happening, for example, with regard to the financial crisis, they delegated it in a way to the governor of the central bank and to bank association.
And it's not their business.
Is this the way how to manage the deepest economic, financial and social crisis of the country? When you nominally have all the structures and all the power there, the economic and social crisis is very deep. The situation is indeed resulting now in, I hope that it will not continue, but in these cases of suicide, it's resulting in the situation that people are feeling hunger, that they are trying to cope with this kind of challenge, and it's not going to disappear with political negotiations about what kind of government and now. There is a need to take steps. the dilemma, and I believe it is for the demonstrators, is also how they would prioritize. What kind of steps? Would they, for example, if, and I'm putting a big question mark, if the leaders of the country will listen to the voice of the people and will try to come with a designated prime minister that would get at least some sort of a support from the people and would send a signal that, yes, I would like to do the things differently, and then the government will be such that would send at least some positive signal to the people. Would they give at least the basic modicum of trust to this government or not? I don't know. One of the first signals we will get is between now and Monday. So, and it's a big dilemma because at the same time, once again, no one manages in a proper sense of the word the economic, financial, social situation that is deteriorating day by day and moving people to suicides. That's a heavy responsibility for everybody.
If I may add just one word. I agree with you, because the problem that we have, since 1992 after the Paris Agreement, we only followed a fiscal model. We've never had an economical development plan, and that's why it was a small consortium of politicians, bankers, contractors that are abusing the system, and now we've seen in the New York Times there was a very big article about the contractors in Lebanon. When you look at all of this, we were, just to give you some figures so that we all understand, 9,340 Lebanese control 48% of the assets of Lebanon and 25% of the income of Lebanon annually. We have in Lebanon, the other 65% of the income is controlled by 10%. In the north, 54% of the people, they do not have a job for 12 months. 73% of the people there, they are living under poverty line. And more than that, it is when this corrupted group was abusing the public funds, they were fine. They were fixing these deals, and I'm seeing it, you know, from where I sit today as a member of the parliament. I could see that's happening. Now when they ran out of money to be able to abuse, they started controlling the banks. Imagine somebody that worked for 50 years of his life, collected $100,000, and he has it in the bank. Now they are not allowing him even to withdraw enough to pay for his medication because we don't believe that the management of the banks was correct. Where we have today is a consortium that all the money is being siphoned by a few, and that's why the people on the street are saying this is not enough. Imagine somebody, there are cases that we hear every day, somebody went to go to the bank to say, I want $200 of my account of $50,000. They are not willing to give it to him. Worse than that, they are willing to give it to you in Lebanese pound based on the official exchange rate, but when you go to the market, it's trading at 22 and 2,300. It means we have implemented a 40% haircut unofficially. And we are restricting capital transfer control. This is unacceptable. And the politicians so far are refusing to see that. And I agree with you. You know, at least give us some kind of indications that you are willing to make some changes. They're not willing to make some changes.
Let's talk very concretely. As you mentioned, on Monday, the consultations for a new government are supposed to start. Essentially, maybe it's just an image, but the president has said, you know, we'll have a government of politicians and technocrats. The streets response, no. No politicians, only independent technocrats. Do you think that there can be a compromise, because all the names of potential prime ministers that have been bandied around, just the mere fact of giving the name to the public, they've been shut down essentially before even starting. So.
Sir, the Hezbollah has made it clear. They said, we will only accept a cabinet which is a photocopy of what we had before, what they call national unity, led by Saad al-Hariri.
If I may, Saad al-Hariri has said...
No, wait. Forget about the public statements now. You know, in Lebanon, there are public statements and there are actual work that's going on. So this is, we have to understand that. He said that I do not want to be a prime minister unless they meet my conditions. What is his condition? He wants to become an absolute leader whereby he will appoint the whole government and they will do all of this. Hezbollah said very clearly, the top echelon of Hezbollah, we insist on a unity government, unity which is a reflection of what we have today, under the leadership of Saad al-Hariri or his nominee. So we have a series of names that was burned, and I'm personally against that because none of these people that were burned, they deserve to be treated that way. They might say, we don't want you, but don't. These people have been serving to their own society. They now propose Samir al-Khatib. Fine. Samir al-Khatib, what we heard from the news is that Prime Minister Hariri agreed to support him. Now, if he agreed to support him and Hezbollah have said, we will support anybody that President Hariri will nominate, technically we should have a government on Monday. Now, but now what we see is a separation within the party of Prime Minister Hariri. There are the prime ministers, the ex-prime ministers saying, we do not support him, we want Hariri to come back. And all of a sudden we see also factions within the Mustaqbal party, which is the Hariri party, saying, we disagree with this gentleman because he is a reflection of the past. Now, and I agree with Jan, if these group of politicians that we have today are willing seriously to listen to the people and not to basically just take them to the cleaners and bring them back like what they do every time, how can you propose names that were part of the 1992 until today's part of this group of corrupted people? How can you propose it that he is going to be leading the change? How can you have somebody, there are so many question marks about their business dealings, is going to lead an investigation into corruption? This will not work. So what we see today and what we hear in the news is there is some kind of there is a plan A and a plan B. Plan A is basically to go against with Khatib. My feeling, if the consultation will take place on Monday, because what we hear now is the roads may be blocked on Monday, there could be Mustaqbal coming up with a plan to nominate Prime Minister Hariri himself and with others to do that. Once this starts, okay, it means there is no genuine interest to try to move along and form a government.
Well, the country is not disappearing, the constitution is not disappearing.
It's not being implemented.
You see the situation that is really, in a way, also very much modulated by the existing constitution, including certain balances that are established there. And I don't think that at this point of time anyone is going against the constitution as such. It's about the implementation of the constitution. What I saw, at least in this past 49, 50 days, after the initial shock, and there was quite a shock, I believe, when political forces were trying to understand what is happening, whether it's indeed something that is temporary, several days, and then again it will disappear, or it is something deeper. When they saw what is happening, when they saw the peaceful character of the demonstrations, that something has changed, that this is a new force, new political force. This is not a new political party or a new political movement that you can incorporate in your discussions that easily. This is a new force, but it's a fragmented, composite force of different groups, self-organizing itself, with, again, producing a number of common messages and common desiderata to the leaders. And I'm not saying that they are in a way under the illusion that this force is not there. They are not in a state of denial.
No.
They understand that something is happening. Not only has happened, but something is happening. The issue is that very often, at least, and this is I'm sharing very openly as well, they fail to translate this into the way how they react here and there during their own political negotiations and into concrete action. Lebanon is where Lebanon is. It's telling me that in these 50 days there was quite a shift.
Absolutely.
There was a massive shift
in
the understanding both of the people what they want, but also of political elites that they need to do it differently. I will not speculate about the names about a designated prime minister. This is first of all not for me, because I am one of those that is saying this is a strictly internal matter of the country, and every foreigner must be very, very cautious not to put fingers into that. And I'm glad to see that basically the community, international community, is very cautious not to cross certain lines. But at the same time, I just hope, and this is what I say openly, as the UN, and this is partly the message also from the Security Council, listen to what people want. adjust your way of dealing with the situation. And as the second point, start dealing with the economic, financial and social crisis. This is extremely important because otherwise, from what we have now, peaceful demonstrations, a catalyst of massive change that is already delivering, might turn into, if you wish, social, civil unrest, motivated by hunger, and that's a different kind of dynamics that can move the country into a different kind of situation. And for that, I believe what we are counting are weeks, not months.
I want to ask you, you pointed Hezbollah. We've seen in the past when there have been tensions and so on, Hezbollah was always united and had its strongholds behind it. Has this really changed this time around? How is Hezbollah responding, according to you? Because we've seen protests in Shia areas, a little bit like, well, it's difficult to compare, but in Iraq. And so it seems the dynamics are very different and that they've also struggled to adjust.
But the status quo that we have today, Hezbollah would like to maintain. But you see, the problem is that to maintain a status quo, and I think as Jan was said, you need to understand what the people want. You cannot just decide to sit somewhere up there on the mountains and decide, I will decide on your behalf, and then you have to listen to me. People are saying enough is enough. We're not going to be accepting this anymore. This is where the disconnect is happening between the nomenclatura that is really ruling this country and the people on the streets. And most probably, and the most importantly, is that the people are on the streets are not the poor people. You go down to the streets in Beirut and you see the Chanel and the Fendi and the Hermes actually in the streets. And this is an indication, I'm not saying in a joking way, but this is an indication that people are not the poor people that are rejecting. People are saying enough is enough. We cannot sustain this process onward. What we proposed, in our plan, is that we have a technocrat government for 6 months. We'll have only in the Prime Minister's speech will be purely economical. Forget about politics. Nobody wants to talk about arms of Hezbollah. We just want to say that we will respect the 1701, okay? Because this is the key factor, okay? Everything else, you see, in the third world countries, which unfortunately Lebanon is one of them today, when politics is going to be deciding what is the what's the economical plan, what is the future for our youth, by a bunch of people that they failed in their own life, and they are going to be setting up our life, that doesn't make sense. In the Western world is the economy that is going to be leading the politicians in order to pass the law and to expand the business. In the Arab world, we are the different story. And I think the economy, and I agree, because now we're going to be seeing a transfer from an objection in the street to a hunger strike. And once we get to that point, then I don't think any of us can really predict what is going to happen. And this is the dangerous part. And the banking system does not want to recognize that they are becoming the tool in order to instigate such a movement of hunger, because people have to eat. Big companies are being bankrupt because they couldn't use their cash. People are being fired from their bus. Now, there is maybe a decision by the government not to announce how many bankruptcies we have, but the bottom line, we all see it. You go to the malls, you go to the markets, and it's happening. Now, if we start going there, then I agree, we might be facing a situation altogether. And this is whereby Hezbollah, I think, and his partners are not recognizing that this is moving too fast. And we do not want to cross that red line, that there is no turning back. I hope that the consultation will take place, because we cannot accept a prime minister that will be appointed by few politicians and few political parties, and then bring the rest of us, the independent members of the parliament, just to be, witnesses for all of this unacceptable process. For me, I will not give the vote of confidence anyway to this government if it is called. But most importantly, let us make sure to listen to the people. We are getting very close to the turning point, that this is going to go from a pure objection, demanding a proper future, to a demand for living, and there's going to be a hunger strike. And unfortunately, arms in Lebanon is readily available. And this is the biggest concern for us.